A single car bomb has just put an entire nation on high alert. Today, we are breaking down the November 10th explosion in Delhi. We're going to look at what happened, who investigators think is behind it, and this is the really important part: why this one attack could be a terrifying turning point for security in cities everywhere. Let's dive right in.
Just picture it for a second. A totally routine traffic stop in a packed city right next to a famous historical landmark. It's a scene you've probably seen 1,000 times. But on this day, it became ground zero for an absolute tragedy, and it's raising some urgent questions that really affect all of us.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics. The date was November 10th, and the location? Well, that's absolutely critical. We're talking about the Red Fort metro station, an area that was almost certainly chosen for its constant flow of commuters and tourists. A white Hyundai i20 gets pulled over, and then it detonates.
The human cost was immediate and just devastating. In a single instant, 8 people were killed. Their lives were just extinguished right there on the spot.
And it didn't stop there. More than 20 other people were injured, caught in the blast and the fire that just ripped through the nearby vehicles. By all accounts, the scene was absolute chaos.
So, in the aftermath, once the smoke started to clear, the big questions began. How could this possibly happen? And who was responsible? This is where the investigation kicks into high gear, trying to piece together those first crucial clues.
Right away, authorities knew what they were dealing with. This was classified as a terror attack. In India's top counterterrorism unit, the National Investigation Agency, or NIA, took over. The trail pretty quickly pointed to what's called a terror module, a small local cell, but one with clear connections to foreign handlers. And then they got a huge break. DNA from the scene identified a key suspect who was in the car, a man named Amar-un-Nabi.
Now, this is where the story takes a really sharp and, frankly, a very disturbing turn. See, the suspects weren't the people you might typically expect. The network included so-called white-collar professionals. We're talking even doctors, all coordinating on encrypted apps. This reveals a chilling tactical shift in who is being recruited for these attacks.
And this detail right here gets to the heart of how this was all organized. Investigators found that the foreign handlers, the coordinators outside the country, were sending encrypted bomb-making tutorials directly to the cell. It is a really stark example of how modern technology is being used to remotely train operatives who might have never even set foot in a traditional training camp.
And if you want to understand the true, terrifying scale of what this group was planning, just look at this number. In a related raid, authorities seized almost 3,000 kilograms of explosives, all of it connected to this same module. That is a staggering amount. It makes you realize that the Delhi car bomb, as horrific as it was really just the tip of the iceberg.
So, it's pretty clear this wasn't some random act. It was a calculated, strategic move. But what is it about this specific attack that's making experts call it such a dangerous game changer? Let's break down the strategy behind it.
It really boils down to a perfect storm of 3 things: the high-profile location they chose, the devastating method they used, and the sophisticated tactics that brought it all together. Let's take a quick look at each one.
First up, the location. They didn't just pick any street corner. The Red Fort is one of the most iconic, symbolic places in the entire country. By attacking there during peak traffic, they were deliberately aiming for maximum casualties and maximum visibility. They wanted the world to see it.
Second, there's the method. Using a car bomb, what experts call a VBID, in the middle of a dense city is a major escalation. Think about it. It weaponizes a completely ordinary object, a car, making it an incredibly difficult threat for security forces to spot and stop.
But for everything that investigators have managed to piece together, this story is far from over. In fact, some of the most critical questions are still completely up in the air, and the race is on to find those answers before it's too late.
The big one, of course, is who is officially behind this. While the investigation is pointing to known terror modules, no group has actually come forward to publicly claim responsibility for the attack. That silence is pretty unsettling.
And then there's the nature of the detonation itself. Was the driver, Amar-un-Nabi, on a suicide mission, or was the bomb triggered by a timer or even remote control? It's a really crucial detail because it completely changes our understanding of the operative's role and the cell's methods.
We also just don't know what the ultimate goal was here.
I mean, did the traffic stop make the attacker panic and detonate the bomb early? Or was this explosion always meant to be just the first strike in a much larger, more coordinated assault?
And finally, maybe the biggest unknown of all, how wide does this network actually go? How many other operatives could still be out there? And critically, where are the foreign handlers who are directing this whole thing? The full international scope of this plot is still a massive blind spot for investigators.
So, with everything we've talked about, what we know and what we still don't, what does it all actually mean for us? Let's try to distill this down into the key takeaways for everyone, from the average person on the street to the security agencies on the front lines.
Okay, so for commuters, for everyday people, the takeaway is pretty straightforward. Stay vigilant, especially in crowded public places. For policymakers, this is a loud and clear reminder that car bombs are a top-tier threat in cities. But for security agencies, the message is the most urgent. The enemy is changing. The focus has to shift to these new, non-traditional operatives and the encrypted tech they use to hide in plain sight.
And you know, the ripple effects are already spreading. This one incident in Delhi has immediately triggered heightened security alerts all across the country, in other major cities like Mumbai, as authorities scramble to prevent any kind of follow-up attack.
And all of this brings us to one final, really crucial question. This attack wasn't planned in some remote camp by a stereotypical militant. It was coordinated by educated professionals using the same technology we all use every day. The face of this threat is changing right before our eyes. So the ultimate challenge isn't just for intelligence agencies, but for all of us. As these threats evolve, how do our security and our societies evolve to meet them?